Hi, this is a short online revision for the coming macroeconomics retest. I hope that this revision session can help you. The test is this coming Thursday, 17th of January, 6 to 7 p.m. We want to accommodate everybody that's able to take the retest. Okay. Now the venue is on the 5th floor, room 11 and 12. You come out from the central lift, turn to the right. Alright, it's a bigger room and there's proper writing desk over there. Topic coverage is the same for the main midterm test paper, GDP to money and banking. This revision is a brief one to help you capture the main gist of handling midterm test paper. It's not meant to cover everything, so you're still required to go and read up some of the theories and the text to better put everything together. All right. Now, when you tackle macroeconomics mid-sem test, you notice that it comprises of largely these two sections. Okay, other than MCQs, huh? You have your diagrams, which you only have one model, which is the ADS, and then you have the calculations part. All right, the calculation part is in section B, the 30-mark section. All right, where you do a series of calculations, if you remember, and then following that will be the diagrams where you draw the ADS. So largely, it comprises of these two parts. So we're going to go through the steps in tackling these two aspects of the test. Now, when you handle ADAS, the diagram, okay, please remember these three steps, okay? Now, first, you have to choose the starting point. Now, this is usually given by the question, okay? Now, the starting point, there's 3 points to choose from. Either is above, at, or below full employment. Okay, just these three. Now, if you open up your ADS notes on page 5, that is the 3 different starting points that you choose from. Okay, and this is usually given in the question. So just make sure you remember how to draw them. Okay, and watch out for the given starting point in the question. Underline it so that you don't forget. Okay. Now, after the starting point, you will do the shifting, all right, which we will do a little revision later. Now, once you have shifted correctly, read from the diagram the real GDP price and unemployment. Okay, these 3 indicators. So, handling ADS largely is these 3 steps. Okay, are these 3 steps. Okay, now we're going to go through these 3 steps, after which you can go and take a look at the past year mid-sem test papers to practice a little bit, look at your tutorial questions. Okay, just follow through these 3 steps and you'll be fine. Yeah. Now, in a nutshell, your current output is given by AD cuts SRAS. Yeah, giving you a price level and a real GDP output. Now, based on where is the LRAS, okay, we can describe the output as below, at, or above full employment output. So LRAS drawing has 3 different choices at where the equilibrium is, okay, on the left or on the right. Let's explore the 3 different starting points in detail. Now, this will be below full employment output. Where the mouse is pointing is the equilibrium point given by AD cuts SRAS, right? So this is the equilibrium point. It will give you your price level and then your real GDP here, okay? Now, it's on the left side of your LRAS, right? The equilibrium point is on the left side of your LRAS. So, it's below full employment output, okay? There's a recessionary gap over here. So, make sure you label all the gaps as you see when you draw ADS, okay? So, your equilibrium is on the left side, which means that this is below full employment output. Now, if your output is on the right side of LRAS, it shows that this is above full employment output. Okay, equilibrium given by AD cuts SRAS, and now it's on the right side of your LRAS, which is your potential. So there's an inflationary gap. Okay, so now you're overproducing. All right, so this is above full employment output at Y1. Okay, so when we describe all these output, we are describing the equilibrium. Okay, when the mouse is pointing AD cuts SRAS. All right. Now, when all the lines meet together, okay, this will be our full employment output. That means potential is where our equilibrium point is. Okay, so all the lines meet together, full employment output. Okay, so these are the 3 starting points that is given, any one of which is given to you. So when you handle the ADS question, please go and check or underline where they tell you which one is a starting point. Okay, so remember how to draw them. Now the next thing we look at is shifting. Okay, we have looked at the starting point, so now we have to shift the curve given the events that is in the test, okay, in the question. So let's look at the shifting of the curves. Now there's three lines. Events can happen to any one of the lines, so we have to know which curve to shift. Now this step is very critical. You don't want to be shifting the wrong curve or shifting in the wrong direction. Then your outcomes will be wrong. Now if that happens, that will severely limit the marks you're going to get. Okay, so when you do a diagram, when you do an ADS diagram, which curve shift which direction is very critical. Okay, it's very critical. Let's take a look at all these curves individually. Now, let's look at AD first. There are many items in the AD function, right? Consumption, investment, government, and then your net exports. Okay. Now, any of these items changing, it will change your AD. All right, either shifting it to the left or shifting it to the right. Okay. Now, AD is affected by consumption, investment, government expenditure, and net exports. Now, when a story is given to you, an event is given to you, look at what party are they talking about. All right. If they're talking about consumer buying, then it's C. Okay. Businesses makes investment. So if something is happening to the businesses, okay, that is encouraging or limiting the activities, okay, we're talking about investment. All right. Government is quite straightforward. Okay. And then net exports, exports or imports. Okay. Take note, imports is minus M. Okay. So if it rises, AD will fall. Okay. So just take note. All right. So any of these components changing, it will change AD. So when you read a question and identify the event, you must see whether it's AD, okay, shifting by looking at whether any of these components are affected. Okay. Okay, next is your SRAS. Your SRAS is controlled largely by your cost of production. Okay, now what are the things inside your cost of production that matters? Usually it's the same thing: your wages, your oil price, maybe steel prices. Okay, so the shift of SRAS is very easy to identify. You can't run away from these things. Okay, your wages, your oil price, your cost of production. All right, so it's very easy to identify. Now just take note, higher cost of production which means that it's more expensive to produce, your SRAS falls or the curve shift left. Okay, or when the cost is lower, SRAS shift right, okay, or SRAS rises. Okay, so it shift to the left when cost is higher, it shift to the right when cost is lower. Okay, so we can't run away from all these cost structures like wages and oil price. So SRAS shifting is quite easy to identify. All right. Now, when LRAS shifts, okay, LRAS measures your potential. Okay, your potential is given by your factors of production of any economy. Shift left means your factors are being destroyed, you have less potential. Shift right means you have more potential because you have more resources or you have improvement in technology or productivity. Okay, so shift to the left, what can cause your LRAS to shift to the left means you got less potential, which means that your factors of production are being destroyed. So war, natural disasters, people migrating to other countries, okay, means you have less resources, less factors, your LRAS would shift to the left. Okay, and if you shift to the right, okay, that's because there's technology improvement, you have more factors of production, or there is improvement in productivity. Okay, now when LRAS shift, SRAS shift together in the same direction. Okay, remember that you have done this for some time in the tutorial. Okay, you should know this by now. When LRAS shift, SRAS shift together in the same direction. Okay, now after you have shifted the curve, you have to conclude off with the outcome. What happened to the real GDP, price, and unemployment? Okay. Now let's take a look at an example question, and then we'll do it together. All right, then you'll see what I mean. We'll revise the whole thing, okay, which is what you should do in the mid-sem test and your own revision. Now, we have an event like this. Now, supposedly consumers are spending more as the Chinese New Year approaches. From full employment output, you see, the starting point is given, full employment output. If I were you, I'll underline that, okay? Use the ADS diagram to illustrate and explain the impact on real GDP, prices, and unemployment. Okay? Now, the story given to us is consumers buy more. Okay? The starting point given to us is full employment output. Alright? So, pretty straightforward. Let's do it together. Now, so your consumption is in AD. Alright? So, your AD curve is the one that's to shift. Okay? So, consumers buy more. Okay? So, higher consumption, AD will also rise, which means that the curve, AD curve, will shift to the right. Like this. Okay? So when your AD curve shifts to the right, your equilibrium point moves from here, the original point here, to a new equilibrium point here, where the mouse is pointing. Alright? So after you have shifted, measure the P and the Y, okay? Label it just PYY1, okay? P1Y1. Now, we now have an inflationary gap, okay? Because you're now producing above potential. Alright, your potential is at the LRAS, so now we are having a new equilibrium, higher output level, so there's an inflationary gap. Okay, so this is how you should draw the diagram. Now, the diagram usually only carry maybe half of the marks. You have to write out the explanation and the outcome. Okay, you should be saying consumption rises, okay, because of the story they told you, right? People buying more because of the approaching Chinese New Year. So consumption rises. Identify why the curve is shifting, okay? And then say which curve is shifting, AD shift right or AD rises, okay? And then these are the outcomes. Prices going up, right? Prices going up. Can you see from the original equilibrium point, prices has risen from PF to P1. So price level increases, all right? Real GDP has gone up from YF to Y1. Now you should know this by now, when you're producing more, all right, you're producing more, you need more people to work, unemployment falls, okay? And vice versa, if there's another outcome, all right? Higher output leads to lower unemployment. Okay, so this is an example of a full ADAS question and how you should write the answer. Now take note, you must write the answer in the correct sequence. Okay, say what is happening, the curve shifting, then the outcome. Don't reverse the order, that will mean a very different thing. Okay, the story must go in sequence. Alright, so what happened? The curve shifting and then the outcome. Okay, write in this order. Now, the next part of the mid-sem test revision that I'm going to talk about are the calculation questions. Now, there's no way out of memorizing the formulas. You must memorize the formulas. Okay? So, I'm still going to go through the formula and ask you to take note of certain parts which you may go wrong. Okay? But otherwise, you will have to memorize the formulas yourself. But there's not a lot of them. Okay? There's not a lot of them. I'm sure you can remember all these formulas. Okay, let's go through them together. Now, when we measure GDP, remember we have two methods, your expenditure method and your income method. All right, we have the output method, which is we doesn't ask you to calculate that, right? We only ask you what it means. We don't ask you to calculate output method. So either it's expenditure method or income method. Now, your expenditure method is the function is the same as your AD curve, your C plus I plus G, X minus M. Okay, so if you are given the numbers, calculate them properly. Okay, consumption, okay, by consumers, investment by private companies, government expenditure is expenditure, okay, expenditure method, so government expenditure, export minus imports. Now, sometimes it's given to you directly as net exports. That means they have already minus it for you. All right, if the raw numbers are given to you, just take exports, okay, minus imports. All right. Now, the income method is very straightforward, as you can see in your notes. Your compensation, your wages, all right, plus rental income, plus net interest plus corporate profits plus proprietors income. Okay, you must remember these two different methods, how we calculate GDP. The previous one was calculate expenditure. This one calculates by adding up all the income components. Okay. Now, when numbers are given to you, you must be able to tell whether it's nominal or real. Okay, we don't want to be converting the wrong thing, or we don't want to be presenting the wrong answers and over converting. Okay, so when you read the question, you must be able to tell whether the numbers given to you are nominal or real. So just take note, if it's based on market price of the same measuring year, okay, same measuring year, same prices, okay, market prices is nominal. Okay, now real is very evident, it's very easy to tell when the price is based on an earlier year. Can you see? 2008 GDP based on 2005 market prices is based on an earlier year. So this is real. Okay, based on the same year prices is nominal. Now you must look out for what the question tell you, whether it's nominal or real. Okay, then you will know what to do with the data. So if nominal is given to you and they ask you for nominal GDP, you just add up the numbers, right? So if they want real, then you convert. Okay, you don't want to be converting the wrong thing or converting at the wrong time. Alright, so you must first tell whether what data is given to you. Are those nominal numbers or are those real numbers? Alright. Now this is the formula for conversion. Now sometimes people remember the formula wrongly. If I were you, I'll just remember one. Okay, it's actually these two are actually the same formula, just presented in different ways. Okay, if it's very difficult for you to remember formulas, just remember one. It's the same formula anyway. Okay, so real GDP equals nominal over deflated times 100. Alright, so remember the formula correctly. Alright, and apply it accordingly. Now, usually after you calculate GDP and you convert to real, okay, or any steps that they require, the last bit you usually have to calculate the economic growth rate. Okay, now we use real GDP to calculate economic growth rate. Okay, so we use real GDP this year minus last year over last year times 100%. Okay, so we use real GDP to calculate economic growth. For per capita, we divide with the population. Okay, so real GDP per capita is usually used to measure standard of living. Alright, we just use the real GDP divided by population size. Okay, inflation rate, we are calculating price increase. So we use CPI. Okay, now this is also your deflator. Alright, so you understand that they are one and the same. So CPI this year minus last year over last year times 100%. Okay, that will give you your inflation rate. Now, inflation rate, the definition is price rising, okay, price increasing. So if the rate is positive, that means that price is increasing. If the rate is negative, that means there's deflation, prices are falling. Okay, price increasing, inflation, price falling, deflation. Okay. Now I want to move on to your labor market indicators, okay, how to measure some numbers that tell us about what's going on in the labor market. Now your labor force are those people who wants to work. These are the unemployed people, okay, people who wants to work but cannot find job, plus those who are employed, okay. Now we assume that those people employed are those who wants to work, okay. Unemployed plus employed gives you your labor force, okay. Your unemployment rate, okay, just take number of unemployed, okay, number of unemployed over the labor force, okay, and then take a percentage. Alright, your labor force participation rate, just take labor force, okay, over working age population times 100%. Okay, these three formulas tell us about what is going on in the labor markets, okay. You should remember these formulas, alright. Now, a little bit more about unemployment. Your unemployment, there's three types. There can be cyclical unemployment. Okay, cyclical means those people who lose their jobs during economic downturn, during a recession. Okay, can work, willing to work, but can't find a job because of the economic climate. Okay, structural are those whose skills are outdated, mismatch of skills, between them and what is required at work. Okay, so outdated skills. All right, and then frictional unemployment are those that's a short-term transitional kind of unemployment. Okay, like graduates that's finding jobs. Okay, or people who are changing jobs. All right. Now you must remember how to resolve these unemployment types. Okay, cyclical just use your expansionary fiscal or monetary policy. Okay, structural can encourage them to go back to school to upgrade themselves, and then frictional, okay, job fairs to help them to find jobs faster. All right. Now again, this doesn't cover all the content that's required for your mid-sem test. Okay, this covers the main parts that can help you to tackle the paper easier. All right, you're still required to go and read up the course book. All right, look through the points and familiarize yourself with answering the questions. Okay, the portal on LMS for past year papers are still there. Okay, it's still open. All right, go and look at some of the questions and practice a little bit. Okay, I'm sure you guys will be able to pass and even do well. All right, so just keep focused. All right, and tackle the calculation questions and the diagrams drawing carefully. All right, I'm sure you guys can do well. All right, good luck for the retest. Okay.